Well, I'm here with star of stage, screen, and the Seven Seas, Captain Glenn Shephard. Really nice to meet you, Gabe.
Nice meeting you, David.
And off camera a few months ago, we were talking about my YouTube channels.
Yes.
Where I have channels for yachts for sale, yachts for charter, yacht builders. This is the new one, Yacht Podcasts. And what I wanted to do with Yacht Podcasts is meet the people who operate the yachts.
Okay.
The other channels show the yachts. They show how they're built, how they charter, and so on. But a lot of viewers really want to meet the people who are actually operating them, and you're just such a person.
Yeah, I kind of do it in two capacities. One as a captain on super yachts, and then also as an owner-operator on a small yacht like Avalon.
That's right. And actually, we're on your yacht today, which
Yes,
is absolutely
welcome aboard.
Thank you. We'll talk about that in a few moments, because I'm sure that's a really interesting story. But a lot of people are interested in how you got into yachting in the first place, because it's not like you were born in a yachting area.
No, not at all. I grew up in Montreal, Canada, and we have a lake there, and we're in the middle of the St. Lawrence Seaway. But I never sailed as a young person. I was backpacking around Europe in the 80s. I found myself in Rome, checking into the youth hostel, and there was a notice on the board in the youth hostel. A guy was looking for crew to help him a deckhand to help him sail around the Aeolian Islands north of Sicily. And when I first saw it, I thought it was like a prank to get someone's phone to ring off the hook, because it sounded too idyllic, too perfect. Yeah. But I figured, what the hell, go for it. I had been thinking about boats at that point, but I didn't have any boating experience.
So up until that point, how did you finance the backpack?
Just whatever way I could, bars, restaurants, whatever way I could make money, sales, did all different kinds of things. But I met this guy, went out to see the boat, and he offered me the job. It was unpaid deckhand, and spent the next, I think it was 9 months, cruising around all over the Mediterranean. We started in the Aeolian Islands, especially around Panarea. I don't know if you know Stromboli, Lipari, Panarea. Beautiful, beautiful. Spent a lot of time there. We did a bit of Sardinia, Porto Cervo, and ended up in Palma. It was my first time in Palma in Mallorca, and loved that also. And then went back to Rome for the winter.
And at what point did he start paying you? Because you said that you were doing it for free to start.
Yeah, no, I mean, we fished for sponge. We found sponge in Ustica, north of, and a valuable sponge. And we fished a lot of it. We never really made any money, but everything was paid. I didn't have to pay. And honestly, it was the best summer of my life. So the rest of my life has been trying to recreate that summer. But I knew from that experience that I wanted to one day have my own boat. And that was in '84. I was a young man, and I wanted to get some more traveling out of the way, before I bought my own boat, because I felt like once you get your own boat, you'd probably be strapped for cash.
Yes.
And I ended up buying my first boat, similar to this, but smaller, a Jeanneau 34, back in '92. I bought it in France and Brittany. And it was like a passion. I did it for fun. And then after...
Do you remember how much you paid for that?
Yeah. Well, it was a charter boat that I bought from them and said, keep it in charter. But I think it was about $75,000 US at the time. It was worth closer to, I think it was worth closer to 100, which was a lot for me, but because I was able to keep it in charter, it kind of helped pay for itself. Yeah. But I got a big discount. They guaranteed me the first season's charter. So I bought it in the spring and used it for a month in Brittany, but it was like buying it in the fall for 15% less. You know what I mean? So it was a really good deal, and I left it in charter for quite a number of years. And then I knew I loved that lifestyle, mostly just cruising around the Med. Did a lot of Greece, and then after I was in the process. I'm Canadian born. I was in the process of sorting out a U.S. residency and from a green card from the lottery, and then getting citizenship so I could travel more easily. And then once I had all that sorted, I thought, you know what, I'm going to try this super yacht thing, like working in yachting, to see if I liked it. I didn't know if I would like it.
So how old were you at that point?
Well, when I started working on super yachts, I was 41 years old.
No.
So yeah, I got my friend, because you have to start at the bottom, right?
Yeah,
so I was 41 working as a deckhand. I was working beside guys like 22 years old, but I looked a bit younger than my age. And what I had the feather in my cap was I'd already had my own boat in the Med, which is a big part of super yacht, destinations. So I knew boating. I knew the locations, the different places people want to go. So yeah, I started at 41, and I started at the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. Yeah, in 2000.
As a deckhand.
Yeah, well, when I went to the boat show, that was my first gig. I had a cousin who was working in the industry, and he kind of showed me the ropes. He was staying at what's called the crew house. So somebody has a house, and they rent out bunks in the rooms, and it's all yacht crew trying to break in or in between gigs. And so I went and stayed there, and I went down to the show, and they were looking for people to clean up. I was on the Grand Banks, which is sort of like the trawlers or crab boats, very nice boats. But my job with a handful of other people would go in at like 5 a.m. and clean them all up, get them ready for that day of the show. So you're finished by like 9 or 10, and then you do it every morning of the show. And that's how I got started. And the guy who organized that got me onto another boat, helping him. I think it was a Hatteras, like a 100-foot Hatteras or something like that. And then from there, I ended up on a 38-meter motor yacht.
Let me take you back a moment, because I'm still astonished that you started at 41.
Yeah,
which, by the way, I think is really inspirational.
Yeah, I think I was just lucky. I think I look like, if I show you my picture from back then, I probably don't look 41. So I think I had that going for me, because it's not easy.
The captain older than you?
The first captain in liveaboard situation was a little bit older than me. I don't know, not by much. But I mean, I never told him my age, right? He just saw this guy on the dock. I was dock walking at Bradford's in Fort Lauderdale looking for work. And I ended up cleaning engine room. That was my first gig. And I ended up working for him for about 2 months. He was getting the boat ready to come to the Med, and it was about 2 months before he finally offered. He saw me going to interviews, because I signed up with all the crew agents, and I was going off on interviews to get work. And he saw I was getting close to getting a job, so he finally said, "Okay, you can have the liveaboard position on this boat."
I want to take a break there, because there's so many really good lessons there. When you say, I guess I got lucky, there's no luck involved, really, was there? Because when people say to me sometimes, "Oh, you're so lucky you lived in Italy," I was like, there wasn't luck. I got off my ass, I got in a car, I drove there, I learned the language, I found
That's all true. That's all true. But it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of luck behind you.
Very, very true. Yeah. Very, very true. But you went backpacking, you saw an opportunity, you took the opportunity. Yeah. But what I find especially inspirational is that at 41, you weren't kind of thinking, "Oh yeah, but it's a bit late to get started now."
It's funny. I'm really fortunate that I lucked into it, because working on super yachts is like the most normal, stable thing I've done in my life. I've been traveling from a young. I used to look at it like early retirement. In my 30s, I would work hard, save money, take a year off, and go adventure. So, but you can't do that your whole life.
No.
Because you do have to think about the future. And I was lucky that when I decided to get into super yachts, the money can be quite lucrative working on yachts, especially if you work your way up into the officers, So it's worked out perfectly for me.
So from the Hatteras to a 38-meter?
It was a 38-meter Christensen, which I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're plastic, basically. They're fiberglass. And we crossed the Atlantic. We didn't have the fuel capacity, so we put a couple, I think, 1,000-gallon bladders, one on the foredeck, one on the cockpit, and then still stopped in Bermuda and Horta and Azores to fill up. But that was quite an experience. But I spent 9 months on that boat. I got off in Monaco, your hometown. And about a week later, I was on a Perini, 53 Perini that was home-based, which is called Atmosphere.
Oh, yeah. Famous yacht.
Yeah, famous yacht.
And what was your position on the Perini?
I started off as a deckhand. Yeah.
So after the Christensen, you're still
still a deckhand. And then worked my way up to bosun. And then I was on and off that boat for 5 years, and I would go sailing on my boat, take some time off. And then I thought, okay, this is serious. It's what I want to do. I know I like it. I'm going to go and start getting my certificates, So I got a Yacht Master Offshore. Then I got the Ocean. And then that was the same time the MCA was bringing in that kind of regimented system of Officer of the Watch, working your way up to 500 ton and then 3,000 ton master. So I went down that path.
And did you end up becoming captain of Atmosphere, or what was your
No,
first?
no, I remember parking Parsifal in Puerto Cervo, and Atmosphere was there. It was the same owner,
Yeah.
and the son was there. You know, I spent a lot of time with those guys, and I'm driving the boat, and they're looking up because it was a Perini Navi Cup.
Yeah.
And so it was all the Perinis,
Wow.
and they look up and they see Glenn, who had been the bosun on their boat, driving a big Perini, you know. And so they were like, oh, wow, you know, small world. But no, my first captain gig was, I was relief captain and yard captain on Mirabella 5, which you may have heard of.
Oh my goodness. Very
Biggest sloop in the world. Yeah, 90-meter rig. And I was at the point I was there, I was getting ready to take some more time off, go on another adventure, do some cruising on my boat. I think I just bought this boat. And the family had some trouble with another captain on Mirabella 1. Oh no, Mirabella 3.
Yeah.
So they asked me, I went and did a couple months in Palma and helped sell the boat. And then I took time off, did some sailing on the old boat and this boat. And
There's a famous photograph. I think, was it Vosper who built?
yeah, Vosper Thornycraft built Mirabella.
There's a
75 meter.
They took a double-decker bus inside the
That's
hull.
right,
Have you
in
ever
the
seen
hull.
that?
Yeah, I've seen that. She was an amazing boat. She was a little bit unfortunate. The first couple seasons they went aground in front of Cap Ferrat.
Oh, that's right.
And
Yeah.
you know, everybody heard about that. So she was sort of famous and then a little bit infamous for that incident. But it's a great boat. But yeah, I spent a couple years there, and then I got on. Which one did I get on after that? Yeah, I was on that one, and then I think got on Parsifal. So I was on Parsifal 15 years,
Wow.
and that was my first proper captain gig.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so what I find fascinating as well is that while you were on a yacht much like this one that we're on today,
Yep.
and you're captain of yourself, really, you have a partner on board as well, but it's but basically you're responsible for the yacht. And then all of a sudden, on Parsifal, how many crew did you have?
We were 9, including captain.
So how did you manage with sort of the learning curve of dealing with so many other people, and you know, not just as a fellow crew member, but then later as a captain?
Yeah, exactly. Good question. You know, I was very lucky that the captains that I'd worked for on Mirabella and Atmosphere, I worked for some great captains. So it's kind of like a mentorship where you know, you're learning the ropes, you're seeing how it works from the bosun or first officer position. And, you know, you're thinking always how you would do things, you know. But yeah, I learned a lot. And I when I got the opportunity on Parsifal, I felt I was ready. It's tough. It's one of the tougher things in the role. You know, there's a lot of things to think about as a captain, but one of the main things is trying to find good crew and then trying to keep them and manage them and keep it all going. It's a struggle. As you know, working in the industry, it's a very transient. The people coming, going all the time. It's hard work, long hours.
Yeah.
People burn out, which is why I'm a big fan of rotation.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that, you know, not just for captains and engineers, but all the way through the ranks, you know, having extra people so you can keep the people for longer, but also give them that break that they need without losing all that, you know, everything that they learn about the boat, all that knowledge. So.
And then at a certain point, television came knocking
Yeah.
at the door. How did that happen?
Well, the creators, they came up with this idea about having a TV show, reality show about super yacht crew lifestyles. They did the original one with Captain Lee on the motor yacht. That one went well. Then they said, oh, let's talk to the network. We'll spin off another one. What can we do different? Well, let's do one in the Med. So they started Below Deck Med, which was after one season, Captain Sandy, female captain, she took over that one. And then that one did really well. So they said, hey, let's do another one. What can we do different? Well, let's do a sailing yacht. So they went through their brokers to try and find a charter boat that was available. And they were struggling to find a boat. Meanwhile, I'm on Parsifal. Parsifal's not too busy at that time. We have 2 owners and they're ending the partnership. So the boat isn't really, they didn't want the boat with a whole bunch of charter contracts while they're trying to sell it. So we're not really too busy. When I first started on Parsifal, I saw an email that had a whole bunch of captains' names on it. So I kind of took that and expanded it to about 300 big sailboat captains. So and I was helping people connect that way. So when they struggled to find a sailboat, another captain raised his hand and said, you should reach out to this Glenn guy. Maybe he can help you find a boat that's not available for charter. So they called me up and I said, yeah, definitely I'll help you find a boat. I said, but maybe the boat I'm on might be suitable. Not wanting to be on the show, but trying to drum up some business for the owners, right? And so that was like a year-long process. They kept, they had different ideas where they wanted to film it. They said, can you go out to the Whitsunday Islands? And we're in Italy, we're in Imperia. Sure. And it's like, yeah, but we're not going to do that for 8 weeks of charter. You know what I mean? It's got to be more, because it's probably take us 16 weeks to get there and 16 weeks to get back if we're lucky. Yes, halfway around the world. Yeah. And I said, can you film in Greece or something? They go, no, we already have a show called Med, so it can't film in Greece. I said, okay, no problem. They call me back like 6 months later and say, hey, maybe we do this in Greece. And I'm like, great idea, And that's where we end up filming season 1, was in Corfu. And it worked out really well for the boss because of their filming schedule. We ended up doing it in May, June. So we've got 8 weeks of charter out of the way before the season even kicks off. Right. So it was amazing.
I want to dig into that because I'm really fascinated by that, how that works. But before I do that, I've got to mention that the thing that brought us both together is the fact that we both collaborate with Keane Specialty Insurance.
Keane Specialty Insurance,
sponsoring this very video. Now you're fairly new to the collaboration with Keane.
Yeah, I've just started working with them. They're great. I mean, as a boat owner, you're always looking for good insurance. When I met them, I had just renewed the insurance I had with the Spanish insurance company, but I'll be moving over to Keane for this boat right after. But obviously, insurance is a big part of boating. I had a lot to deal with that in working on the big boats. So I think most important is having a good working relationship with people that and you can trust.
So as a captain, even of the larger yachts, did you get personally involved with his choice of the insurance and the coverage?
Well, I think we were already in with Camper Nicholson, who handled our insurance. But over the years, people would come and go. So heavily involved in making sure everything's tickety-boo and everything's good with the insurance and keeping up with all the different, things that pop up with it. But I've had a really good experience with them in the insurance that they offer.
I found that too. And I mean, my point of contact is Denise.
She's amazing.
I've also spoken to other people there. And I thought, if I was you on this yacht and I'd got it insured and, somebody comes into the side of us now, I want to know who this is on this.
Exactly. That's so key.
Exactly. You can pick up the phone, you can say, hey, whoever it is, this has just happened.
Yeah.
And there's not just a recorded message saying press number 2.
You're not just a policy number. They know you by name. They know your boat. And that's why it's so important to work with,
Yeah. And I like the flexibility too. Right in the very early days of talking to them, they said to me, they have an expression. They say, if it floats, they will quote it. And, from ribs to sea rays, I love the flexibility that they have.
Yeah. No, when I first started chatting with them, they put together a very good quote for this boat. So, yeah.
That's great. And actually, they said we get on well. They said, you got to meet Glenn. You two guys will get on so, in fact, so far. I'd agree with that.
Yeah, no, great company.
So back to the experience with Below Deck. That must have added a lot more stress having a television camera or several television cameras around you all day long.
Well, like I said, when I first got involved, I was really seriously just trying to drum up business for the boss because I knew it was an 8-week thing, and 8 weeks of charter, especially early in the season, that's golden. That's really nice. And I wasn't necessarily going to be on the show, but then as the thing developed, they were filming Med in Saint-Tropez. Yeah. We were at the Monaco show with Parsifal. So they said, hey, can we come out and visit the boat, see if it's suitable, blah, 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 meet you. So they came out, met me, a couple of my crew, and they went back to LA and they showed it to the network. And they said, well, let's do an interview with the captain and the other 2 crew. And based on that, the network pulled the trigger and said, yeah, let's do the show. Let's start this new franchise. And yeah, so it was really exciting. And then all of a sudden, it's like because I didn't really want to be. I'd never aspired to be on television in any capacity. You know, I'm not an actor. But that's the cool thing about reality show, and especially that kind of reality, because on Below Deck Sailing, that's the only one I can speak about. But it's real. There's nothing made up. There's no one giving us scenarios and trying to create drama. It's all natural drama. It's all stuff that just happens, you know. A big part of it is the crew. You know, the network has a say in picking dynamic crew. They're not just trying to run a charter boat, they're trying to create a television show that's interesting and entertaining for their audience, you know. But
so they don't mind if one of the crew is a little bit
crazy. They're probably, you know, it depends, not too crazy, but just the right amount. But I can tell you, I was very nervous the first couple of days, but luckily I was able to have two of my crew with me. So it wasn't, you know, jumping in at the deep end. I wasn't alone. Misery loves company, right? But they come in for a week and set up all the cameras and stuff like that.
I want to ask you about that. You're not worried about the camera equipment, because it must be a lot bigger than we've got here today.
Tons. It's like this on steroids times at least 100.
So you were worried about it dinging the wood?
We were, of course, we were worried about that, but they compensate for that. So any damage, on top of the charter fee, there's a sizable damage deposit. Yeah. So any little ding that they do, we'll fix it. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's quite intrusive. Because it's a TV show set. Yeah. They run wires all through the boat and mount, robocams and lighting. When I go into my cabin after my long day, I turn off my lights on the switch, but there's still a strip of LEDs that I have to wave into the camera and point, and then from the control room, they'll turn them off so I can go to sleep. So yeah, I mean, it's a TV show set, 100%. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really cool experience. The production staff, and there are a few of them. I mean, probably 100 people that come over. It's a big thing that they do. Great people. I've done 5 seasons.
You did 5 seasons?
Yeah, I'm hoping to do a couple more. I'm waiting to see if they're going to be, season 6. It was looking like it, and then something changed. But yeah, I'm hoping to do at least a couple more seasons. I love it. It's good fun. I really enjoy working with the production staff because they're professionals. Their lives are very similar to super yacht crew. Long hours, hard work, travel. But yeah, a great bunch of people, from the producers all the way down to the audio people. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Do you think, like from a kind of a character perspective, did you learn anything that sort of has been life skills that have been useful going forward?
Yeah, it's a challenge because, just running a boat, as you know, running a super yacht is a challenge. It's hard. Obviously the goal is to make sure that the guests, whether it's the owner and his party or charter guests, have the absolute best time. That's what it's all about. But when you add all these we had 34 production staff that would come on the boat in different shifts during the day. We've got to get them all on safely. Got to get them off to like a follow boat to have their meals and breaks and stuff like that.
Sure.
It's logistically, it's complicated, and the safety is, it's crazy. But I had a really good experience with it. There were some challenges, but I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. No question. Absolutely.
That's
absolutely. I love it.
It's good fun. Definitely influenced my opinion on that show. Just listening to you.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, when I had heard, working in the industry, and I'd heard about this reality TV, my impression was reality TV is kind of what I think a lot of people suspect, that there's like a director that comes in the room and say, okay, well, you're going to fight with him and you're going to sleep with her, and we'll just film it. But on this show, nothing at all like that. Yeah. But that was my impression. So I'd never seen the show. I mean, I had avoided it. Especially when it first came out, Below Deck, I think among industry people, it had quite a bad rap. I think that's changed over the years. It still has a bad rap for sending new people who are thinking of coming in, maybe the wrong messages. If they're naive, that they think that it's all just partying and drinking. I like to think that when they watch sailing anyway, that they can see there's a lot of hard work involved. But the way the schedule is organized, we do get a little break in between each charter, which is not really fully typical, but they go and party because that's part of the show. It's no secret that yacht crew party. They party, but they don't get to party in between each charter. The middle of the summer can be super busy for them, but they're definitely there's no shortage of partying on super yachts, right?
Very true. from all aspects.
From all aspects of it. You know, the guests have a great time, but when the guests all go home and you go to a marina or a shipyard in between seasons, yeah, they like to go out. They have the disposable income. They're young, good-looking people, and they party. They have fun, as they should, because it's a pressure cooker. It can be really hard,
Now, Denise from Keane Specialty Insurance told me something which surprised me about you.
All right.
Which is that you left Fort Lauderdale in the year 2000?
So that's when I started in my career in 2000. And so I started at the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show.
Yeah.
And then I have been back to Fort Lauderdale a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
But I've been back to Lauderdale, but I've never been back to the show.
So 26
years I haven't. I've been to a lot of shows in 26 years, but I'm mostly Mediterranean based, right? So, Monaco, Genoa, Cannes, all of those shows. But this year I'm planning to go to Flibs or whatever, at Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. And I'm really looking forward. It's a big show. It's one of the biggest. Fort Lauderdale is one of the yachting centers of the world.
And it's so different to the Monaco show.
It's so different from the Monaco show, exactly. Because they have, I think they have a lot of super yachts, but a lot of smaller boats. And I've done Monaco so many times.
You have a beer tent.
Yeah.
You have the Budweiser girls.
Yeah.
It's something that in Monaco would be completely unthinkable.
No, exactly. And Monaco has kind of changed. It's very kind of posh, isn't it?
Well, tickets now are...
I heard that they're like 600 a day or something crazy like that.
6 or even 700 this year.
But I guess they're trying to, limit it to people who are serious about buying a super yacht. We all love them. I'm never going to buy a super yacht, but we still like to go and see them. I like especially to see all the equipment at the shows. But yeah, I guess it can get just too crowded with people who are not serious about buying a boat like that.
I think,
which is a bit of a shame, right? Because it's still fun.
It is,
but they're there for a reason.
One of the challenges in our business is definitely balance. I was thinking this earlier when you were talking about Below Deck, because my first reaction was, look, ours is a business of discretion. This is not very discreet.
No.
But then on the other hand, the yachting industry is far too secretive.
Yes, it is.
Below Deck has opened the window onto...
I agree with that. And it's funny because a lot of yacht owners, like a lot of my buddies work in the super yacht industry, and their owners will say, my boss, she loves your show. So I'll do little videos saying hello to their boss, because...
I love that.
Absolutely. Many times, another similar super yacht was in Ibiza when we were filming the season 5. And the owner invited me over to meet his 2 teenage daughters who are big fans of the show. If you have an interest in yachting, and especially in the super yacht world, it's interesting to watch the show. You got to take it with a grain of salt. It's not exactly the thing, but it does portray some of what super yachting is about.
That's right.
So yeah, a lot of people love it.
Shows. You got Monaco, which is like $1 million races to get through the door. And even when you're in, and even when you paid for your ticket,
you still can't get on the boat.
But then you go to Fort Lauderdale, very accessible, people drunk on the dock,
it's a whole different thing.
Rock music. Yeah. And so we're in an industry, it's really difficult to find that balance.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. So I'm looking forward to going back to the Fort Lauderdale show.
We'll no doubt meet up again.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Now, Glenn, to wind up, I've got some quick fire questions.
Okay.
For you. And actually, I did prep you on some of them, but I'm going to throw one in.
Okay.
Because I forgot to write it down, but it's come back to my mind. Okay.
So
first quick fire question. All the places that you've been, where is the most memorable, beautiful location?
God, that's a tough one. I love Greece. There's so many sides of Greece, so much to see there, but I also love the Bahamas. The Exumas are amazing, the Abacos. So it's sort of like picking your favorite child. It's really hard. But to me, those two are, I haven't been to Bora Bora yet, so I'm sure that will be on the list eventually when I get there. But Greece and the Bahamas are some of my favorite. But there's so many.
So actually that brings me on to the second question. What about somewhere, if you had to choose one place that you really want to go to, but you've never been yet?
I think that would have to be the South Pacific, the French Polynesia. Very
large geographical area.
Yeah, no, Bora Bora, Moorea, Raiatea. I have a lot of friends. I got a buddy who's out there now on his catamaran, and I think every sailor dreams of the South Pacific.
I guess.
So yeah, that's something that's on the list. It's probably going to take me another 5 or 6 years to get there because there's so much to see in between.
Yeah.
And many of it I've already, many of the places I've already seen, but I want to go back to. I want to do the Bahamas again, the Caribbean again, the East Coast, the intercoastal and all the history up the East Coast. Yeah. So
next one. So I have so many YouTube viewers who I am sure think that it's very romantic to be caught out in an awful storm crashing through massive waves. What's the worst sea conditions that you've ever been in?
Well, some of the worst was actually in port in Villanova, just south of Barcelona. We had, it was almost hurricane strength, and we had like solid 60s in port for 2 days. Oh, wow. That was pretty crazy. I remember.
Which boat were you on?
That was on Parsifal. In the end, after day, we started snapping ground lines, and I was worried. I had my anchors out with 100 meters of chain in 8 meters of water. Oh my goodness. So 10 to whatever. But I was worried, and so the second day I told the guys, okay, get the shore power off. We'll go on to generators. We will ease our stern lines. Just pull ahead with the engine. We started up the engine, and then just pick up the slack with the chains. Not pull hard on them. Just pick up the slack, give us a couple extra meters behind us. And that all seemed fine and was still really howling. So we just left it in gear at 50% thrust. So we're pushing against the dock, and I left it for 12 hours like that. And we survived the storm like that. Oh, yeah, there was a boat alongside next to us, was pinned and just pushing hard. I'm sure they scratched up their whole starboard side because solid 60s and it's gusting 70s. So it worked.
It's really interesting because now I think about it, I think one of the worst accidents I actually saw with a yacht was in port, where a 100-foot yacht was picked up and slammed on the dock.
Oh yeah,
and repeatedly. It was awful to be in.
Yeah, we actually sunk. We didn't sink our tender. It was a rib. Inflatable, but the waves inside the port were washing over the bow and flooded the engine compartment.
What would you say to those viewers who have this romantic notion of going through a storm?
No, I don't. I like calm seas. I'm a fair weather sailor. If it's nice weather, 15 knots on the beam, that's perfect for me. I don't ever want to challenge myself. I've done 22 Atlantic crossings, and out there, you're nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. So you don't want to see anything big out there. I've seen enough crap in the Med. The Med is pretty notorious for bad seas, and you can see some really challenging stuff in the Med. So yeah,
better to look at the weather forecast and
check the forecast and stay out of that stuff.
Here's another question: where's the best local cuisine?
God. And you can't beat the French Riviera for cuisine. The French have got it down, but the Italians too.
That's better. That's more like
Italy is amazing, right? But even Greece, I love the food in Greece. So it's again like picking your favorite child. It's really hard. I think working on super yachts, you're always exposed to amazing cuisine because we have amazing chefs on board. Top notch. Chefs, and a lot of them have, like Michelin experience and things like that. So yeah, I've gotten to eat a lot. I wouldn't call myself a foodie.
Well, when you say French cuisine, I immediately realized that you're not a foodie.
No, I'm not. I'm a ribs and pizza kind of down to earth kind of guy.
I just alienated every French viewer that I've gotten.
Yeah, exactly. No, I've been able to enjoy some amazing meals on board with chef, because especially on the show, I don't know what it is, but the guests always invite the captain to have a meal with them. So, normally we eat crew food, which is amazing. But the guest food is, a level or two up, and being able to, enjoy that with the guests is a highlight for
these yacht chefs are
incredible. Yeah.
Now, the question I didn't prep you for, so you can skip it if you want to, but what's the most difficult situation that you've found yourself in on a charter?
Difficult.
You really had to pull out your management skills to keep it.
Yeah, I had one charter. We were doing New Year's Eve in St. Bart's, and my chef insisted on having another chef, and so we picked this guy up in St. Martin, and we had a guy who had done the crossing with it. It wasn't one of our crew, but he was in our tender, bringing this chef over to St. Bart's, where we were going to anchor after having a nice sail to set up this party but we had gotten dispensation from the MCA to have 60 people on board.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
You can only do that when you're at anchor, and I maybe more like 40, but extra tenders, extra life rafts, they will give you, as long as you're not moving the boat, you can ask for it. Yeah. So we had all these people on board, but this chef and the officer who was with him in the tender, they came out of Simpson Bay and went straight to Saba. I don't know if you know Saba. It's a little island south of St. Martin, about 25 miles south, whereas St. Bart's is like 9 miles east. So they picked the wrong island, went halfway,
No chefs.
Well, no, I had one chef, but the chef and this guy are lost at sea. And I'm like, I've got the MRCC, the Rescue Coordination Center in Martinique or wherever, looking for these guys. There's cruise ships looking for, because it gets dark. They start in the afternoon. They're still out there at like midnight. I called my agent in St. Martin and I said, whatever it takes, just go get somebody to rescue so fishermen came out of Saba and found these guys, and they were going to chuck the tender. Because you have no responsibility to save property at sea. Life, absolutely. But I said, whatever you do, don't leave my tender out there because I'll be screwed. It's the beginning of the season. So it all ended up well, but I gave that guy a licking after because he made some serious mistakes that put his life and the chef's life at risk. Because there's nothing west of that area except Mexico. And it's days till you get to Mexico, right? So yeah, and that was harder because I've got all these people on board. I've got the charter guest, the primary guest, and I'm like, I've got all these people looking for my crew, but at some point I'm gonna have to pull up anchor and go look for these guys myself. And I don't want to have to. In the meantime, the toilets go down. No. There was a Perini next to us, and I called them up, and they sent their engineer over because you got all these extra people. They don't know how a delicate black water system works, so they're chucking all kinds of stuff in the toilet, right? My word. Yeah, so it was getting pretty hectic. But in the end, they had a great party. I didn't have to go. The fishermen went and rescued them. But that was a pretty hairy time because I'm talking to the guy on Skype. He's on his mobile phone, and he doesn't really understand where he is. And everybody who's in St. Bart's for New Year's is calling their friends. So that phone system I couldn't reach out on the local phone system. I had to go from Skype to Saba's phone system to talk to this guy in the tender. And he's lost, it's like, oh my God, that was a tough one. But, I've seen other things like that, but that was the one that comes to mind.
Stressful.
It was very stressful. In the end, thank goodness it all worked out and everyone got home safe. But they didn't get back to St. Martin until like 2 a.m.
Now, we can't conclude without mentioning the fact that you're really living the dream now. We're here on your own boat. Where have you been to? Where have you come from? How did you get here? Where are you going next?
Well, the last 5 summers, I've mostly been retired. I've filmed the TV show and did a little bit of work on Parsifal, but I've tried to use this boat as much as possible. So I've gone everywhere from Turkey, Malta, Sicily, Croatia, Venice, the whole, as much as I could see about the Med, because I want to go do the Caribbean again, the Bahamas. The plan now is to go up the French canals. That's why we're here. Pull the rig and go into the canals. But yeah, just enjoying the boat. As it's, I'm no spring chicken, I'm getting on in years, and I want to stop and smell the roses. So yeah, this comfortable little boat and just cruising. I love it. It's amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I've really enjoyed meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.
I'm sure at Fort Lauderdale we'll catch up
for sure. And even definitely, 100%.
Thanks, Glenn. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.